this book was a fun read. This is Spider-Man issue 21 from April of 1994, and this is part 4 of The Revenge of the Sinister Six. And it makes me wish that I would have read more of this when I was a kid, but sadly, when you are a kid, you don't have a lot of money, so you have to kind of grab what you can and what your parents or whatever your allowance is going to allow you to get. So this is Dylan Arms, this is Eric Larson, story and pictures, Chris Yiannopoulos doing the lettering, Joe Rosas doing the colors, and there's everyone working on the book. And Spider-Man was created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. And I just love this, what do you call it, the stakes that happen in the opening pages where you open it and here's Soldier, I believe is his name, pointing a gun at a already beaten and broken Spidey. It says, the supervillain Mysterio has used his illusions, cast in his capability to make Solo believe that the unconscious, bleeding form of Spider-Man is instead Dr. Octopus. Unfortunately for Spidey, the vigilante intends to kill Dr. Octopus. So that's definitely a way to bring the reader in. And the dynamic artwork for this time, love it. Absolutely love everything about it. And then you just get into the hardcore, bloody action for what you could do in the 90s with a comic book. Just beautiful line work. I mean, look at that. Look at that. Great stuff. And of course, heroes can't die, so Soldier's beaten beyond his capabilities, all his systems have malfunctioned, and so we left Spidey to be broken and bleeding with this weird-looking cyborg standing over Spidey. Now, the Sinister Six are wondering why Otto has saved their life. They're wondering what it's in for him, and we'll get into that in a minute as Otto here says, if I intended to kill you, I've had plenty of opportunities to do so. Clearly, that is not the case. True enough, Octopus, and you saved our lives too. But then we have no idea what to expect in the other dimension we're preparing to enter. You worry too much. Follow me. And this is the era of Spider-Man that I miss because Spidey and, not Gwen, what's her name, Mary Jane, are married. And of course, the wedding issue was one of those big milestones in their, in their lives. I hate that. That was still the thing to this day about One More Day that I hate because it broke them up again and it bugs. And it bugged a lot of people, but it is what it is. At least we have all these original books. And what made the books interesting around this time too is because it put a strain on their marriage because Mary Jane was always wondering if he's bleeding in the gutters somewhere. She goes, sometimes I get so worried. I think he's finally gotten himself into a situation that he can't get out of. That being Spider-Man has finally caught up with him. And that Peter's dead and I'm alone again. Okay, no need to go off the deep end. It's not like this hasn't happened before. Maybe Doctor Strange or somebody needed him. And then while she's worrying about him, and this is what always made Spider-Man interesting and why he's one of those long-standing characters, is because you care about their lives. Because at this point, she's a movie star, and she says he doesn't care for the idea of his wife doing nude scenes in a big-budget picture. Still, it would be a tremendous break for me, and I want to do this. It really seems to bother him. Still, it's times like this when I really feel rotten. Peter and I have been going at it lately. He really doesn't want me to do this Arnold Schwarzenegger, which around this time the Terminator came out, so of course Arnold was on top of the world. It's just interesting to see how their relationship plays out and the strain that it always put on them. And then of course you see Spider-Man here, which he almost did die in the streets if it hadn't been for Care Labs, which I've never heard of up to this point before. In this single page, splash page, I guess you can call it, absolutely gorgeous. He's like, what's happened to me? Now, you get in the Care Labs and you hear all about this underground program that takes soldiers and whatnot that are just about near the brink of death and restores them to kind of like cyborgs in a sense. And this character, let me see if I can find his name. Oscar McDonald. He's basically saying, relax, Spidey. I'm trying to rebuild faith in the government because people don't trust it and they've given them plenty of reasons not to. So I'm trying to be full transparent here. I'm not trying to do anything to you. We even left your mask on. We just gave you a cybernetic cast that essentially lets him continue doing what he's doing while his arm, heals, and gave him a new eye patch for the one that busted out. And the character that was standing over him, it was named Cyborg X. You find out, I think it was the Gulf War, where he essentially died and he's being rebuilt. And he's like, well, what about his family? Shouldn't his family know? He's like, he told me to not tell them yet because, yeah. But you find out they're working with S.H.I.E.L.D., and this is where we bring in Death Clock. Death Clock, wow. I can tell I have Metalocalypse on my brain. Deathlock. And he's from the future, for those of you that don't know. And essentially what happens is Deathlock is a killing machine, and when the machine is bonded with certain individuals, it fights for control. So this character is saying that he was a pacifist, which I guess at this time he was introduced in Deathlock #1. I keep wanting to say Death Clock, so if I do, just roll with me. And he's basically saying, I came back into the past to stop this future, and it all starts here at Care Labs. And Spider's like, well, there I go, trying to trust the government. He goes, I thought it all seemed too noble to be true. I'd love to help you out, but the Sinister Six may be well on their way to taking over the world unless I get over to New Jersey. Which is the weirdest line. I gotta save the world, but I gotta get to Jersey first. It's just a weird roll of the tongue. You sound to me like a desperate man. Let me help you. If you come out of this alive, you can return the favor by assisting me. Mister, you've got yourself a deal. Let's go get him. And look at the artwork for this time. I miss these stark, heavy, inked pages with the color. This is the era of comics that I remember, and damn, do I miss it so bad compared to a lot of the digital work. I mean, look at this. That did not take no couple of hours. That had to take a couple of days, or if you're really skilled, I guess a couple of hours. But what I love here is how he's Deathlock here says he's a pacifist, and he just kind of lets his robotic part take over. And it just, I mean, look at the face he makes, that heavy shadowed work with the stark red background as he just plows into these robots that are trying to stop them from reaching their goal. And I mean, look at this, the line work. I miss these action lines that you see. You still see them in manga to these days, but I miss seeing this type of work in American comic books. Deathlock, for an alleged pacifist, you sure are bloodthirsty. I've got a capacity for violence and it scares me. I don't like that in myself. That's why I'm a pacifist. That's why I want peace so much. And so they go into this other reality, which I think the Sinister Six are trying to get weapons to essentially take over the world. And when they enter, other than the great artwork on these landscapes, it says approximate death toll of alien life forms, 143,000 plus. And so right now they're both thinking that the Sinister Six did this, and it kind of correlates to both of their needs in this. So it lines up, and it's just a great way to leave this on a a cliffhanger, because we see that the Sinister Six is back from this alternate reality, and all hell breaks loose on New York. And before we know what the hell's going on, we see a Spider-Man wake up in his apartment, and Mary Jane's nightmare has come to life. Great artwork, great storytelling, and one thing that I wanted to point out is it does feel like a lot of reading, which it can be a hindrance at times, especially this panel. But for older books like this, or even during like the Chris Claremont New Mutant Uncanny X-Men days, it's at least engaging, and it's telling you something to learn more about world building or character, as we're nowadays when we see big speech bubbles like this now. For me, if I'm wrong, feel free to make fun of me down in the comments, but a lot of the newer books, when they have dialogue like this, it's just like they're doing talking and not saying anything. Here, yeah, it may feel like a little bit of an exposition dump, but you're learning more about Soldier X, why he's trying to bring transparency to the U.S. government. and Spidey's apprehensions to what this Dr. McDonald, I think we said his name was, is trying to do. So yeah, this is one of those books that if you're a huge Spider-Man fan, Marvel fan, superhero fan, right up your alley. Great artwork, great storytelling. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost go support your local comic shop or wherever it is you like to get your action figures and comics and get this book. This solo Spider-Man series that during this time, I remember it blew up like hotcakes. Everyone talked about it, everyone collected it, and it was everywhere. It was a time to be a comic fan. And if you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate if you take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the channel more than you could possibly know. And if you mind hitting that fancy little Deathlock bell, next subscribe, that was when we continue to upload content. You guys get notified. Come to the channel, and we love talking with y'all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments below or the socials, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, I hope y'all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, everyone.